Okay, here we go. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhadajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhadajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar to the Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar to the Srimad, His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, we will be on page 324 today in almost all of your books. One book is different. I can tell from here, but no one has that book. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 11th day of October 2022 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 7 entitled Knowledge of the Absolute, text number 16 on page 324. Chaturvidha Bhajante Mam Jana Sukritino Arjuna arto, jigyasur, artarti, jnani, cha, bharatarshabha, chaturvidha bhajante mam, jana sukutino jana, arto jigyasur artarti, jnani cha bharatarshabha, chaturvidha bhajante mam, jana sukutino jana, arto jigyasur artarti, jnani cha bharatarshabha, chaturvidha bhajante mam, jana sukutino jana, arto jigyasur artarti, jnani cha bharatarshabha, chaturvidha bhajante mam, jana sukutino jana, arto jigyasur artarti, jnani cha bharatarshabha,
chaturvidha bhajante mam,
chaturvidha bhajante mam,
jnana sukritinarjuna,
jana sukritinarjuna,
arto jigyasur artharti,
arto jigyasur artarti,
jnani cha bharatarsabha,
jnani cha bharatarshabha,
chaturvidha bhajante mam,
chaturvidha bhajante mam,
jnana sukritinarjuna,
jana sukritinarjuna,
arto jigyasur artati,
arto jigyasur artarti,
jnanika bharatarshabha,
jnani cha bharatarshabha. Anyone else?
Chaturvidha bhajante mam,
Chaturvidha bhajante mam,
jana sukritino arjuna,
jana sukritinarjuna,
arto jignashar aratarti,
arto jigyasur artarti,
jnani cha bharatarshabha,
jnani cha bharatarshabha. Okay. I'll be the synonyms myself. Chaturvidha, 4 kinds of. Bhajante, render service. Mam, unto me. Jana, person. Sukritinaha, those who are pious. Arjuna, O Arjun. Artaha, the distressed. Jigyasuhu, the inquisitive. Arta arti, one who desires material gain. Jnani, one who knows things as they are. Cha, also. Bharata Rishabha, O great one amongst the descendants of Bharata. Krishna said to Arjuna, O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me. The distressed, the desirer of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the Absolute. Purport. Unlike the miscreants, these are adherents of the regulative principles of the scriptures, and they are called sukritina, or those who obey the rules and regulations of scriptures, the moral and social laws, and are more or less devoted to the Supreme Lord. Out of these there are 4 classes of men: those who are sometimes distressed, those who are in need of money, those who are sometimes inquisitive, and those who are sometimes searching after knowledge of the absolute truth. These persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service under different conditions. These are not pure devotees because they have some aspiration to fulfill in exchange for devotional service. Pure devotional service is without aspiration and without desire for material profit. The Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11 defines pure devotion thus: Anyabilashita shunyam jnana karma dhanavritam anukulyena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruit of activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. When these 4 kinds of persons come to the Supreme Lord for devotional service and are completely purified by the association of a pure devotee, they also become pure devotees. As far as the miscreants are concerned, for them devotional service is very difficult because their lives are selfish, irregular, and without spiritual goals. But even some of them, by chance, when they come in contact with a pure devotee, also become pure devotees. Those who are always busy with fruitive activities come to the Lord in material distress, and at that time associate with pure devotees and become, in their distress, devotees of the Lord. Those who are simply frustrated also come sometimes to associate with the pure devotees and become inquisitive to know about God. Similarly, when the dry philosophers are frustrated in every field of knowledge, they sometimes want to learn of God, and they come to the Supreme Lord to render devotional service and thus transcend knowledge of the impersonal Brahman and the localized Paramatma and come to the personal conception of Godhead by the grace of the Supreme Lord or his pure devotee. On the whole, when the distressed, the inquisitive, the seekers of knowledge, and those who are in need of money are free from all material desires, and when they fully understand that material remuneration has nothing to do with spiritual improvement, they become pure devotees. As long as such a purified stage is not attained, devotees in transcendental service to the Lord are tainted with fruitive activities, the search for mundane knowledge, etc. So one has to transcend all this before one can come to the stage of pure devotional service. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance to him and all members of Sri Parampara. So Krishna has just spoken in the previous verse with this long purport about those who he calls dushkritina. Dushkritina. Kritina means basically those who act, which is everybody. And dush means those who are bad actors, miscreants. And he divided them into four classes. Those who are grossly foolish, the mudhas, simply working simply to keep body and soul together, not ever inquiring about higher values of life, and not interested in God or the soul. Naradama, they're a little different, lowest among mankind. They are also not so interested in spiritual life, but they're not as degraded usually as the mudhas. The Maya Aprita Gyanas, they can be big philosophers and so forth, but it's all impersonal. The idea is they're speculating about the absolute truth, or they're speculating about this and that, and they don't go to the source of transcendental knowledge beyond the range of the material mind and senses. And then you get the out-and-out demons who declare that there is no God. They don't just not know. Agnostic means someone, I don't know, which is a perfectly honest, I don't know if there's a God or not. Well, then take this book and read about it, investigate, But the idea is, I know for a fact that there's no God, And then those who are preaching in God are evil and have to combat them. There's people like that. So that's the four classes of people who don't come to Krishna, don't surrender. But then there's these sukritina. Notice the difference in the word. One is dushkritina, one is sukritina. Sukritina is defined here as those who are pious. So, in so many instances you'll find people going to church, going to God, because they're in trouble, they have some difficulty. Or they might have some trouble, so I better stay on the good side of God. In other words, it's a material motivation. Or they need some money. Right? People go, I can't pay the rent, please. I've been coming every day for the last 60 years. So that's another class. And then there are those who are truly curious about God, and many of you may be in that. Curious. Is there something to it? Maybe there is. In other words, there isn't really much of an understanding of what you're going to find, but they're open to investigate. And that's what Prabhupada found when he came to America. He had to be finding some of these. Generally, nobody's going to go to a loft in the Bowery of of New York, which is one of the poorest sections, if you're looking for money. You know what I mean? That doesn't make it. But those who are curious about Eastern thought, about spiritual matters, some are wander into the temple. Then they come in contact with pure chanting of the holy name, which Srila Prabhupada is speaking, and later on, as time went on, with books of knowledge. And not only that, but with devotees who may have been similar to what they were. In other words, here's someone who's also an American. He's 22 years old, and they're chanting very nicely. They look very blissful. Let me see what's going on here. So this is the curious and the inquisitive. And then there are those who have some knowledge. They know what they're looking for. And these Krishna will praise these in the next few verses. Someone who really has some background in devotional service. Maybe they were raised, as children, and they heard about it. And so they really want to renew their knowledge. And that's these jnanis there who have a greater idea of what's going on. But the whole point of this Krishna consciousness movement is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what class you come. If somehow or other you come into contact with Krishna, with the chanting, with the prasadam, with the deities, with the festival, somehow or other, and you respond with some interest, then you're way, way, way on the pious side. Very fortunate to be receptive to these, because it is far out. It's transcendental. It means it's beyond the range of a mundane mind and senses, and that's it's easy enough to just close your eyes to it and say, "You people are nuts," and just go off and go into the bar. I like to give the example. We're sitting here, and if you go to the corner, it's still there. There have been various incarnations of it over the years. I've been here for 30 years. And the pizza, I think they have pizza and drinks and brew, and of course the TV, you can watch. So that's just 40 feet away. So you make a life choice. Some people walk in the door here and check out the Hare Krishnas, and there's the deities and the chanting, and prasadam. And then some people, I don't need that. I want to go to the bar. And there's a majority. You've got old Garnet Avenue there, So the fortunate few. Now, this temple, I'm not going to go into a history how this temple came to be, but it used to be a warehouse. You go back to World War II, I think this whole area was owned by the army. And it was a warehouse for military stuff, and the war ended, and it was sold. And it became a movie theater, I believe, at one point. And then it was vacant. And it was actually miraculous the way we were able to get this building. And it was just a building. There was no kitchen. It wasn't built for that. And so they had the kitchen in here where we're sitting. It was like a whole thing. There was no place to bathe. They had to go next door. There was a service station next door. They would fill their bathe with the water. A lot of devotees put a lot of effort into making this what it is right now, which we're also benefiting. And of course, Srila Prabhupada inspired the whole thing. Yeah?
Do you know if this is one of the original 108 temples that Prabhupada made?
For sure.
It is?
Yeah, it was. This temple was founded in, the San Diego Yatra, we call it the Yatra, the first temple was down near the park, 3rd and Thorn, where they actually had the deities. These deities weren't here at first. In fact, there's a story. I know the devotee who was the president then. His name is Bhagavad Das. I think he's still alive. He lives in the Far East. But he was the president, and there was an opportunity to order deities from India. That came up because they know how to carve them in just the right way. So he did that, but then he forgot that he did it. And so, because it took months for it to come. So he was so busy, so he got a call from the airport. "Oh, we have something, 2 boxes here, addressed to you. Do you want to come pick them up?" Yeah, I wonder what that is, So he goes down to the airport. There's the boxes. He opens the boxes, and there's Radha Giridhari looking at him. Oh, now I remember, That's how they came. And a few years ago, we had the celebration of the 45th anniversary of their installation. There's a whole ceremony for installation, And it was the first of the flower festivals, the flower petals. This is a very nice festival where they buy literally, hundreds of pounds of flowers and make them into petals. And then there's just a long kirtan, there's a talk, and then some devotees are on the altar and throwing petals on the deities, up to so they are practically covered here, Then they take those petals and throw them out into the audience, and everyone's chanting and dancing. It's very And it's like such an innocent thing, and nobody's taking any intoxication or anything, but everybody's getting high. Everyone on Krishna. It's just very, very ecstatic. So this is the fortunate few who fit into one of these categories. In many cases, it's the curious. They can come in contact. As Prabhupada defines in here, come in contact with the pure devotee means the words. We're coming in contact with the pure devotee right now. As soon as we read that purport, that's Prabhupada's words. And with Krishna also, Prabhupada makes it clear, when you read the words of Krishna, that's why he took so much trouble to give us the Sanskrit and then the word by words. You won't find that in any some academic Bhagavad Gita. But the point is, the sound itself has so much power. These are the actual words of Krishna, and you can find out the meaning. And so then he explains it and gives it and goes on. And so this is, as Prabhupada said, I remember, because I was around in 77 when Prabhupada was preparing to depart, And then you would read in a purport that there's two ways of associating with the spiritual master or with anybody when you think about it. It's called Vapu and Vani. Vapu is personal. This is what we usually call association with someone. But that's very temporary. Not only with the spiritual master, but with anybody. We come together and then time goes by and we split apart, somebody dies like that. But the Vani, the words, live on. And because they're transcendental words, the same potency is there. You're associating with the person through their words. And so we're getting Krishna's association. And by that association, our intelligence is being purified. We're becoming more and more enlightened in Krishna consciousness. So that's why, somehow or other, to come in contact. And that's why the devotees, the pure devotees, they're so anxious to bring Krishna to people who have never heard of him before. It's out of compassion. They're extending Krishna's compassion. Because what do we need in this world? I mean, what are our real problems? The real main problems are that time is pushing us on, and everything that we hope for in this, we may get some money, may get some fame, may get some pleasure here and there, but it's always passing away. Haven't you noticed? You can't hold on to it. You certainly can't hold on to youth. Dimitri doesn't know that yet, but he knows it philosophically. Athletic, very together, But I mean, I can attest to that. I used to be like that, And now, I'm having a problem with my feet. It's hard, I couldn't walk for a while. Now that's cured, but then I have a problem with my ears. What's going on, So that's all of us have to face that. But what's the best news is, it comes right at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. So that's not really you. We're all riding on a very, very amazing machine called the body. Incredibly complex. I mean, it's not a mystery. How, they're still trying to figure out just how the brain works and how you remember and how you forget. What is depression? It's easy enough to say these problems are chemical imbalance, but that doesn't really say anything. That doesn't explain why it's happening. And the whole idea is that we ourselves are spiritual beings. We're eternal. We never die. Isn't that good news? You'll never die. I have a little ditty based on that, based on a couple of verses in the 2nd chapter. Every body dies. Actually, I changed it a little bit. Every single body dies. Who can deny it? Every single body dies. Nobody dies. Wake up, and open your eyes. You're not that body. You're a pure spirit soul. Chant the holy name and attain life's goal. So what is that life's goal? Well, it's the culmination of all our little struggles in ordinary life. We want to maximize the happiness and pleasure and minimize the pain, right? Who can deny that? That's true not just for human beings, but even the animals. That's just what it means. But being entrapped in a material body, which by nature is temporary, and which the pleasure potency is very, very limited. Everybody has had experience, I mean, I like to tell the story when a lot of devotees, when we joined early in the movement, we had such good cooks, you wouldn't believe. Prabhupada trained some of the early cooks, and they trained others, and they were able to make these exquisite sabjis. I mean, we're trying our best here, and we're getting there. But I mean, this is like real parampara, and everything was just incredibly delicious. So here you are, you've joined the Hare Krishnas. No illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication, no meeting. So for many of us, especially the intoxication, illicit sex, that was a major field of pleasure, right? Right. So that was out. If you're going to live in a temple, that's out. All right, Hare Krishna, and the kirtans and everything. But there's still so much enjoying spirit there. There's the Sunday feast. Go for it, You can eat as much as you want. So I like to tell the story, how many times Sunday night, I used to be addicted to halva. We made such exquisite halva. There was date halva. There was, raisin halva, all kinds of halva. And then they would outdo themselves on Sundays, because they had guests coming. So after a whole evening of gorging myself on halva and puris and sabjis and everything, I'd be lying in my bunk, hardly able to breathe. And I would be a really serious renunciant at that time. I said, never again, never again, never again. And then I go through the week, and then Sunday would come again. That went on for like years. But so everyone gets, even don't have to be a Hare Krishna to understand. If you overindulge in any sense pleasure at all, there's a bad reaction, and the reaction can be way worse than balancing the pleasure. Yeah.
I'm just curious, how did you fix the habit?
Well, well, one way there was also a struggle because I was also kind of athletic when I joined. And so every day we had 3 hours mandatory Harinam on the street. And I read about this one devotee named Vakreshwar Pandit. He was an associate of Lord Chaitanya. He had this one special quality. Many of his different devotees, they had this special, strength. He was able to dance in kirtan for 3 days straight without stopping. 72 hours. And Lord Chaitanya said, if you're like a Gandharva. Gandharva is one of the angels, the wings and everything. If I had another angel like you and I could fly in the sky or something like that, But the Vakreshwar Pandit was known for that. So he said, I want to do that. I want to see if I can do that, at least work toward it. So I needed shoes, we were wearing flip-flops and sandals. That's not going to make it if you're going to dance, on the street. So this was the early 70s, which is really part of the 60s. A lot of people were walking barefoot in the street. Or they'd come with shoes and leave without them. So we had a shoe room in the temple, and I went down there, and there were a lot of shoes. I mean, this is normally people would come, they would take their shoes off, and they would check them, and they'd have a number, But sometimes they wouldn't bother to uncheck them, and they'd leave the temple. So there were a bunch of shoes. I'd check, and there were these, we called them sneakers in those days, perfect running shoes. They fit me perfectly. Oh, Krishna, he wants me to do this. And so I got those shoes. So I was eating a halva, and then I was dancing it off, eating a halva, dancing it. So I was pretty full, I had I wasn't fat, but anyway, what happened was my service changed. When I became an editor and proofreader, and after some time full time, when we went to LA, you have to be able to sit for hours. You can't be, working on, a pound of halva, you'd be fall asleep. So that was kind of the time when I started to get away from it, and now I'm pretty sane. I actually don't eat halva anymore. I've had my halva for this lifetime. But anyway, the point is that material sense pleasure obviously has limits, and if you overindulge it in any kind, it's going to produce a bad effect. And what we learn from the philosophy is that even if you're not overindulging, that very idea of enjoyment in this world, material sense pleasure, is going into your consciousness. See, the way it works is that what we call the body, which is what we see in the mirror, we're very aware of it, is only what we call the gross body, the material body. Obviously, this is temporary, it passes away. It came into being at a certain date, birthday, and it's going to go out at a certain date. But we have an inner body called the subtle body. Everyone knows a mind. We can't see it. I know everyone here has a mind. You have a mind, but I can't see. So we have the mind, and we have this finer intelligence, which is our discriminating capacity. And even finer than that is the ego, the sense of self. that doesn't die when the body dies. And there's a record in there of all your unfulfilled desires, of all that you want to achieve. And so that, plus your karma, is all taken into account as to what your next body is going to be. And there will be a next body. So our whole aim in this lifetime, in the time we have left, because we can make a choice, we can do this, not that. All of you, for one reason or another, have chosen to come here to get Bhagavad Gita class this evening. Could be a million other places. So the choices that we make and what we do and what we cultivate is going to determine our next body. So the best body we can get is a non-material body, spiritual body. We all have that original spiritual body. Spiritual hands, spiritual feet, everything, and it's eternal. It doesn't die. And that body is perfectly suited to engage in loving service with Krishna in the spiritual world. And we can also do it in this world. But the point is that once we leave this body, you don't have to get another material body. You can escape from the rounds of birth and death. And that should be our main motive in living. We should be seriously, and this is what our great acharyas, our previous spiritual masters, they've written so many books, which Bhagavad Gita is one, describing the goal. Who are we? What is the goal? And how to achieve it? This is called Sambandha Gyan and Abhideya, the practice, and the goal, the prayojana. The final goal. And so that's, Krishna is also bringing us forward now with this, and he's saying, okay, I just described the Dushkritinas. They're very unfortunate, they don't surrender unto me, and they suffer like anything. But then there's these 4 classes of pious people who come to me. And the wonderful thing is, it doesn't matter how you come to Krishna. You can come to Krishna, you can pray, just like you pray in church, for something material or whatever, some knowledge, please this. That's fine. Krishna says, fine. At least they come to me. Because as soon as you get into the force field, if you will, of Krishna with the sound, the beauty, the prasadam, the devotees, then your real self starts to awaken. And it gives you a chance to be receptive to the philosophy and to the practice. And once you start that powerful practice of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, your life becomes auspicious. We're just reading in the morning. We have a morning class too. You're all invited at 8:50 every morning. And we're in a part of the Bhagavatam. It's very wonderful. It's described. It's called the life history of a Jamil. He was a very pious Brahmin, devotee, but then he's out in the forest getting some firewood for his father, a spiritual master like that, which is a standard kind of menial service you perform. And he came across a low-class couple embracing in the forest there, having sex right in the forest. And he couldn't control his senses, He became attracted. He eventually married the girl who was a prostitute. He had a wife already, gave her up. He just completely lost it. And in his whole life, he turned out to be a rogue. He was a thief, and all sinful activities. But he had a good upbringing, to say till maybe 18, maybe it was 18, 20, something like that. So he named, at least his youngest son. He's over 80 years old. He has a little 5-year-old boy, so he's having sex into old age. But he named his son Narayan. Narayan is the name of God, And so he's on his deathbed, and his little boy is there, 4 or 5 years old, And so he sees the agents of death who are fierce and frightening. And they've come to pull his soul out of his body and take him to Yamaraj for judgment. And he's due to suffer a lot of pains and hellish pains. But because he calls out to his son, Narayan, Narayan, actually probably just one time is enough. Narayan! And immediately the representatives of Vishnu come. So there's these Yamadutas who are very scary and, fierce and angry. But the Vishnu Dutas, the representatives of Vishnu, they come, they're very beautiful and calm and powerful, and they stop the Yamadutas. Say, no, you can't take him. He's sinless. What do you mean? And they had a whole list of what he had done. They told the story. So no, you don't understand the power of the holy name. So there's a whole kind of interaction where we learn of the power, and that's exactly what we're doing here. In Lord Chaitanya's Leela, there were these two rogues called Jagai and Madai. They're in the same mode. Jagai and Madai, they were born in Brahmin families, but they fell away. This is Kali Yuga. It's hard to maintain, the saintly character. And they had become, drunkards, and in Navadvip, people were giving them a wide berth. They were always in the street, making a big noise and harassing people. So Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, there were two very dear associates of Lord Chaitanya. This was in his days in Navadvip. And he would send them out to preach. And he gave them a simple mantra that they would try to tell everyone, they would give to everyone. Bolo Krishna, Bado Krishna, Koro Krishna Shika. And we can also take this as a motto. Well, I put it into a poem. It says, just chant the name of Krishna, worship him with all your heart, follow his instructions, and to others them impart. Bas. So they would tell others to do that. They would approach everyone at their house, and they would sometimes roll on the floor, and they were pious people like that. So here comes Jagai Madai, and they were warned, don't go near them, don't go near them. Because if you talk to them, they're going to get angry at you, and they'll throw something, But Nityananda said, these are perfect examples of the population of Kali Yuga. Maybe he foresaw what Prabhupada would come in contact with when he came to America. So Nityananda is the incarnation of God also. So Nityananda, he said to them, Bolo Krishna, Bado Krishna. Before he even finished the thing, they were angry, and they started to chase them, and they were going to attack. And Nityananda and Haridas were running away from them. And then Haridas was joking with Nityananda, I told you not to, now look, I'm not big, he was older, said, now I'm going to, die because of this. Anyway, they were so drunk that eventually they couldn't follow him anymore. They fell down and started fighting with each other. And Nityananda and Haridas came back, and they gave the report to Lord Chaitanya. All right. So then they went out again, and they came again. So again Haridas, Nityananda said, please chant Hare Krishna. And Madai, he becomes infuriated. He takes a little shard, a little piece of a broken pot, throws it at Nityananda, hits him on the head, and blood starts flowing. And Nityananda says, okay, that doesn't matter, please chant Hare Krishna. So Madai was even more angry. He took another thing, but Jagai came to his senses, his brother, said, stop. He's a saintly person, because they had been trained as Brahmins in the old days. So don't hurt him. So they started arguing, and meanwhile, word had gotten back to Lord Chaitanya that what had happened to Nityananda, and he came. Now Lord Chaitanya is actually Krishna, hidden. So he activated his chakra, and he was going to annihilate him with the chakra. And Nityananda says, no. You've come to deliver the people of this age. This is more or less what they're all like, Jagai Madais, Maybe not in that part of India, but all over the world, So you have to deliver them. Plus, Nityananda said, this Jagai, he saved me from another attack by Madai. And so Lord says, oh, very nice, very nice. So meanwhile, Jagai and Madai were, scared, because this is Krishna with the chakra. So Jagai surrendered, and Lord Chaitanya came and embraced him, and immediately he got love of God. So he was saved. And Madai said, oh, can I have the same thing? So he says, no. You have to go to Nityananda and get his mercy. Which he did, of course. And they both became completely purified. And Lord Chaitanya, you're pure devotees now, and he warned the rest of his associates, don't refer to their previous sins. They're now, purified. They had to promise not to do it. So this is Lord Chaitanya's mission. His special mission is to approach the fallen people of this age and give them this easiest process of devotional service. This chanting of the Hare Krishna. Doesn't matter where you're coming from. If you just take that process and you seriously chant and you try to avoid the offenses, gradually you learn, then anybody from any platform can become purified. It's that powerful. So we shouldn't miss out. We should take advantage of that. It's such a simple process. So just to continue with this, so what he's characterized, he divides them into these four, and he gives the definition of pure devotion. Anya Bilasha Dashunyam. This is important to know. This Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which Prabhupada mentions here, this is right at the beginning, the 11th verse in the whole book. So he's defining what the goal is for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the pure Vaishnavas. This is what it is. And what this means is, that Prabhupada says, One should render transcendental loving service to Supreme Lord Krishna favorably without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities of philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. So the idea is that we're not approaching God for anything material. There are demigods for that. If you want to try to go to heaven and enjoy for a long time, or even get a better birth here, you can approach Shiva, you can approach Brahma, you can approach Indra, Ganesh, Durga. There's many Durga worshippers in Bengal. They're worshipping the Shakti, nature. So if you do it just right and you perform the mantras properly, which is rare in this age, you can get some material benefit. But like anything, it's fleeting. Even if you go to heaven. Heaven is not the kingdom of God. Heaven is where the demigods live. And you can live for a very long time, you have a very healthy body, like that. But eventually it ends. And Krishna, he denigrates that. He said, okay, you've just wasted, a million years in Indraloka. Now you're going to come back here and start over again. You didn't make any progress, really. So we should aim for the perfection, which is easily attained by this process. And that is without any material desire. And so what is our desire? What's the motivation to do it? This is Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. This is mentioned by Jiva Goswami in his book, and it's all, they're related. So he has a phrase, Sanskrit phrase. I remember memorizing this when I first encountered it many years ago. Bhajaniya padama purusha sukha matra swasukatvam. Which means that Bhajaniya Padama Purusha means the worshipable Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And the rest of it means your satisfaction lies wholly in giving satisfaction and pleasure to that Supreme Person. Find your satisfaction in that. And that's the purest form of love. And why it sounds kind of, well, how does that work? I mean, how do I get satisfaction if I'm just working to satisfy God? And the answer is that we're part and parcel of God. Is that if we do anything to satisfy Krishna, even just chant the name Krishna once, or even sit down once for Bhagavad Gita class, it's very pious. Thank you. You'll find that that's in your bank account. That's in your eternal bank account. And so you're on your way, even if you just take 1-2 steps, So think of it like this. The purest form of this love, because it all comes down to pure love, you find in a mother's love for the child. A little helpless baby, 2 weeks old or something like that. We were all that way at one point. And we wouldn't be here unless we had a loving mother, So the baby may not even know that this is another human being here. It's just like, this is, my safety, my source of nourishment, and warmth. But there's a feeling coming from that mother of protectiveness and love. If there wasn't, then there wouldn't be any human civilization. That has to be there. So what is the mother getting from that? The mother sees the child is sleeping soundly, or waking up and giving one of those little half smiles with no teeth, and her day is made. The day is made. If the mother just sees, oh, my baby is healthy and happy, and boom, So that kind of selfless love, when it's directed toward God, gives us the greatest possible happiness and bliss. And it's not material, means that it doesn't have to be bound by time. So that's what pure devotion is. That's what we're looking for. Now what comes in the train of that is peace, absence of fear and anxiety. Because we know, yes, death is coming and these things are coming, but I'm not, I'm headed toward Krishna. I don't have to worry that I'm going to get reborn in some lower birth or go through some agonizing hellish punishment. No. I'm simply in the hands of God. And you can feel that weight lifting from you, as you even make some progress in devotional service. Like I've been doing this for 50 years, and I can honestly say it hasn't gotten stale. That Hare Krishna mantra is, there's so many levels of appreciating it. I wish I could, really appreciate it fully. But the point is that even just whatever little advancement I make, it's a million miles away from being caught up in material confusion and seeing it all slipping away and being destroyed. like this whole crisis. I mean, I remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. I was in such anxiety. I was 14 years old. I was glued to the TV, and there it was, yes, the Russian ships are coming toward Cuba. Looks like it could be a war, hydrogen bomb war. I'm just a 14-year-old kid, you know. I thought, this is the end. And all over the world it was happening like that. So now they say, we're practically at that stage right now with this crazy Ukraine thing. It can happen. So how do you deal with that? Just like this pandemic happened. Suddenly, you know, everyone's sitting quietly at home and trying to live. You can't, mostly you can just, it's on the TV, whatever happens. Yeah, there was a tornado, but it's not here, you know, it's on the TV, okay. But this is here. It's threatening you. You know, and everyone was aware of that. You have to stay home and whatever, you know. So that, I think, was a wake-up call. But most people are trying to go back to sleep, you know, trying to just stay in the moment and enjoy. But that's the solution to the problem of the rabbit. You know, sees the lion coming. All right, that's a problem. But if I stick my head in the sand, you know, no problem anymore. And until boom, boom, you know. So we shouldn't, you know. We should investigate this, because this is the real mission of human life, is to transcend the limits of the body and the mind, and to gradually realize our spiritual nature and the spiritual nature of the Supreme Lord and our relationship. All right, any questions on this? Boy, I've already taken the whole time already again. This first, 4 different kinds of people who come. All right, the next one is also short. So we'll read it. So now he's differentiating. The best of those 4 is the Jnani. Tesham Jnani Nitya Yukta. Eka Bhakti Vishishyate. Piyohi Jnani No Tyartam. Aham Satchamama Priyaha. Of these 4, the one who is in full knowledge and who is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best. For I am very dear to him, and he is dear to me. Purport. Free from all contaminations of material desires, the distressed, the inquisitive, the penniless, and the seeker after supreme knowledge can all become pure devotees. But out of them, he who is in knowledge of the absolute truth and free from all material desires becomes a really pure devotee of the Lord. And of the 4 orders, the devotee who is in full knowledge and is at the same time engaged in devotional service is, the Lord says, the best. By searching after knowledge, one realizes that his self is different from his material body. And when further advanced, he comes to the knowledge of impersonal Brahman and Paramatma. When one is fully purified, he realizes that his constitutional position is to be the eternal servant of God. So by association with pure devotees, the inquisitive, the distressed, the seeker after material amelioration, and the man in knowledge all become themselves pure. But in the preparatory stage, the man who is in full knowledge of the Supreme Lord and is at the same time executing devotional service is very dear to the Lord. He who is situated in pure knowledge of the transcendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so protected in devotional service that material contamination cannot touch him. Jai. And so I wanted to, we'll continue tomorrow, but we have a few minutes. So one of the things that kind of resolved my swinging between, you know, too much prasadam and dancing, you know, was that I began to get a higher taste. And that came in the form of gradually being exposed to some of the verses, the shlokas in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'll give you a little a sample of those. And I put some of them into poetry. So this one is about the holy name of Krishna and also Radha. We should know that when we chant Hare Krishna, Hare is vocative for the name Hara, which is a name for Radharani, means she who steals away the heart of Krishna. And Krishna, the name, means all attractive. He is all attractive, full of bliss, and who ends our sojourn in the material world. And the word Rama is also a name for Krishna, means he who is experiencing the highest levels of spiritual bliss and is inviting us to join. So this is a verse by Raghunath Das Goswami, who's one of our great acharyas, the original disciples of Lord Chaitanya. And he says this, Radheti nama navasundara siddhu mugdam Krishneti nama madhurabhatagara dugdam Savakshanam sadaviraga himena ramyam kritbata daiva bhibame rasane chadarte. An excellent, so we're going to have a kirtan in a minute, chanting as Hare Krishna so I can remember this verse. An excellent fresh nectar drink with endless subtle tastes, such is the name of Radha, by whom all three worlds are graced. Condensed milk that is wonderfully delicious, thick and sweet, such is the name of Krishna, in whom all attractions meet. Now mix these drinks, O thirsty tongue, and add the cooling, fragrant spice of love, a prize the wise will try to buy at any price. And then at every moment drink this beverage most fine, and make my heart supremely blissful, peaceful, and divine. So that's just one little effort at that. So we should try to do that. Okay, it's 10 minutes after, and I don't think we have anyone on Zoom these days. Hello? Okay, maybe on YouTube. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol. Our Zoom host is in India for a while.
Yes, Prabhu, I'm on Zoom actually.
I'm sorry?
I'm on Zoom.
You're there?
There is someone on Zoom. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, you're going to come tomorrow? Maybe.
Yeah, mostly I'll attend online, Prabhu.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
We do have a Zoomer.